Today I want to talk about one of the biggest problems with Discogs, and that is their grading system. They are using a very old goldmine standard from the 70s. And it was different in the 70s. It was very hard to find poor conditioned records, because even records from the 60s were in good condition in the 70s. Today we really need something else, something better. And I've done a graph with the ugly Discogs color. They chose these colors, not me. These are the records I found in my want list, 470 of them. And as you can see, there are only two grades you can possibly use when selling records on Discogs. Yes, there are mint records, but those are usually record shops selling new items. Usually when you sell on Discogs, you sell used items, and for used items there are only Mint Minus and VG Plus you can choose from, and very seldom VG. Since I started using Discogs to sell items a few months ago, I found this very irritating, only being able to choose from Mint Minus and VG Plus. They also have good, fair and poor, but as you can see, there are a ridiculously small amount of the records being sold on Discogs that actually uses all of these four lower tiers. And that's pretty simple. They're usually not worth your trouble adding to Discogs. Usually they just go in the trash. And that is the big problem with Discogs. Any record can be in the upper part or the lower part of that grading. It can be very close to Mint, or it can be very close to VG Plus, but you have to write Mint Minus because it's in this very large field. This is extremely confusing and irritating both for sellers and buyers, which usually receive a record that is way better or way worse, meaning you can't trust the ratings on Discogs because it only has 2 ratings. The only reason I can think of that they used goldmine is because goldmine standard was invented in the USA. A few years later, a UK record magazine realized they needed to improve this grading and introduce excellent between Mint Minus and VG Plus to make this scale better. And you can also add EX Plus and EX Minus, which makes this scale more usable. But there are so many better options, and the goldmine standards is pretty much the worst. And that is the one that Discogs forces on you. I've compared a lot of other ones, and one I find very interesting is the CGC for comics, which is a handful. It's like the goldmine standard but on steroids, and they don't use excellent, they used something called very fine instead. And there are so many options here, and they also realized that it's not enough to just have mint, because there are so many small variations. So they have actually split up the top part from 9 to 10 into smaller sections to be able to exactly specify how good condition this comic actually is. And we do have many other options. We can just have 5 grades, maybe like in school, from grade E to A, and that would still be so much better. That would still give you 3 very useful grades to give records, by reserving grade A for mint and grade E for everything that's good or below. And then we have another grading system from a company that sells used collector's items, including comics, and it also uses the UK magazine version with some extensions like very poor and dual mint ones. However, I have a solution that I would like to implement on my site. I will have a grading scale from 0 to 100, meaning 100 different ways to grade both the record and the sleeve. But you probably won't be using that unless you really want to. Instead, I will convert that 0 to 100% grading into these different systems, including the pathetic goldmine standard for people who still want to use something that is literary crap. But you will be able to select the CGC or CGA or any other grade that seems to be popular for describing used records. I don't understand why Discogs is using the worst possible grading system for records that clearly have failed on their website, leaving both sellers and buyers dissatisfied every purchase.